Welcome back to another episode here on the Heart and Hustle podcast. Our next guest, he watched his father battle untreated depression for over a decade. However, now he's actually transforming mental health care with a little bit of AI. So we'll start off right there, Brad. The last time we spoke, you are a fan of AI, and some people, while it's a buzz for others, some are struggling with depression. And how does AI really change their story for those that are thinking about AI and using it for just conversation?
Oh man, Efrain, you're jumping right into to all the meat
The
of
nitty
it here.
gritty.
Yeah, I mean, I know. Look, we're touching on two topics here that are probably on a lot of people's mind. We got a lot of people struggling with mental health challenges for themselves or people they love. A lot of people looking at what AI is doing, hearing a lot of commentary and predictions about it. That on one hand can feel interesting and exciting, and on another hand, really ominous and scary about what it does to our society, to our connections, to our opportunities. And so, let me constrain my thoughts for the moment to sort of the intersection of AI and mental health treatment, where I spend a lot of my time and have a lot of passion. Um, and one of the areas where I think that's most interesting, where we have invested a lot of resource, is in thinking about the way that we prescribe medication for mental health issues. And historically, unfortunately, the mental health, the healthcare system overall, and the mental health part of the healthcare system have often thought of this class of medications, often used for depression and other conditions, as being roughly equally effective, and generally have accepted a convention that we would call guess and check prescribing. If you've ever gone to try to get an SSRI or something similar, often a provider with all the best intentions will say, try this and let's see how it goes. And the reality that we know is that approach is ineffective and inadequate. If you look at sort of outcome studies relative to these medications, they're pretty widely criticized for only being a moderately more effective than placebos, which are sort of fake treatments in those studies. What we know, though, is that there are lots of different subtypes of depression. I'd call depression and anxiety and other conditions extremely heterogeneous. And so you've got this diagnostic category that puts a label on something, but there's a lot of different things underneath that label. And if we give everybody the same treatment, only some are going to respond. And so we're going to get outcomes on average that only look okay. But if you utilize machine learning, AI, and other sophisticated approaches to understand the distinct subtypes within these categories, match them to the right treatment, make sure that data is available to prescribers when they're choosing the treatment for somebody, you can actually turn this sort of guess and check prescribing into more precision medicine and get the right treatment for the right person sooner. And that means better symptom reduction, fewer side effects. That drives better adherence to medication and treatment courses and better outcomes ultimately. And so we've been building and using tools like this for the past 8 years at Brightside Health, and AI has the opportunity, within our category to continue to really accelerate and turbocharge the work we're doing, as well as a lot of adjacencies. One of the main uses right now, probably the main use for AI tools, is actually as a sort of pseudo-therapist or a companion. And that's just happened organically in tools that weren't built necessarily for that, like ChatGPT. So we're going to see AI have a major impact on mental health care delivery, as well as mental health overall in the coming years. And I think we could talk all day about it.
Yeah, I mean, I really want to, let's be real on it. People think that AI is scary, all right?
Yeah.
It freaks people out. What are you hearing from some of your providers and patients that helps you walk that line between that bold and being grounded?
Yeah, I mean, that concept of AI as one thing, I think, can feel scary. I think we need to keep in mind that AI is just a tool. That's like, saying that computers are scary or something like that, right? There are tools that can be used for lots of good stuff, and people, when in the wrong hands or with the wrong intentions, can use them for negative things. So AI is a set of tools, and really what's notable that we need to think about is sort of how they're used. So again, within mental health, in very specific applications, I think there's the potential to really substantially improve the way care is delivered and scale the way, high quality care delivery, so more people can get that good care. And that doesn't mean it's going to replace providers. That means in many ways it's going to complement providers. It's going to help people find the right thing faster, have the right sort of care journey, and complement to the care they may get from an expert. if we talk about AI more broadly and say, is AI scary? I think there are lots of questions around what AI is going to do to work, right? What jobs might be replaced as we think about AI as a productivity tool, and then what people do when they lose their jobs and the impact that has on all of us. I think this big question about our sense of purpose, about our sense of connection, about the way we get satisfaction and joy in our lives, is going to be really pressure tested by AI if some of the predictions about how it's going to change our society are true. And so as I really care about and think about mental health most broadly, that's one of the main things I'm tracking in this sort of next few years as AI starts to really become more mainstream is what impact does it have on our sense of self, on our sense of purpose, on our sense of connection, and then what downstream impact is that going to have on substance use, on mental health challenges, and on the way we help people manage those.
I would say, Brad, you're very ahead of the curve when you talk about, hey, we are already have it here, and we'll continue to do the research on it to make sure that it's actually for the good in our organization. Not a lot of people can actually say that, and it really stems from, as we mentioned a little earlier, all this stems from your dad. Seeing your dad have this fight and this struggle. You built one of the most innovative mental health platforms, I would say, Brad. And if we take it back a little bit, what moment in your dad's struggle actually made you say, this can't be how the system truly works?
Unfortunately, the experience that my dad has had and that my family has had mirrors the experience that so many families have had with mental health care delivery in the U.S. My father grew up in an environment where it wasn't really acceptable to talk about mental health or to feel like he was complaining. And so he just kind of white knuckled it through his childhood and young adulthood. And he married my mom, who finally, I think, when they were together, pushed him to go get some help. He was finally able to open up to someone for the first time, and she encouraged him to get some support. And he went and engaged the healthcare system. And between his first appointment, though, and when he finally got treatment that worked for him was about 10 years. And so he got stuck in this cycle of failed treatment attempts, of dropped referrals, of inadequate follow-ups. It was a different time in terms of the medications available, right? It was earlier in the development of some of these drugs that we know can be very effective. But it was a decade of his life that was in some ways lost, because when he finally got the treatment that worked for him, he woke up one day and he looked at my mom and he said, wow, this is what normal people feel like. And he hadn't felt like that his entire life. And it was really an awakening for him, and proud to report that he's been doing great since then. And really proud that he's been really open about sharing his experience and not treating it like something stigmatized, and has been able to share it with me, and has blessed me being able to share it with others, so that people don't have to go through that same experience. But as I saw and knew the impact of his one experience, and saw through my work the system level challenges in care delivery, knowing how many other millions of people and families that affected, I just couldn't not try to do something about it.
It's so good, man, to just think that you continue to carry your dad's legacy by doing the work that you truly do, right? And it wasn't meant, I would say, in this way, but truly what it is, the story that you carry would always be my father, and now you're a parent as well. So how was watching your father's pain for those years really shape the kind of father and leader that you are trying to be today, or you are today?
I would say that it's just a labor of love. It's real passion. It's real, it's part of my own search for meaning and purpose in my life, and finding that thing that I can work on and pour myself into every day with real conviction and clarity and consistency. And, I came back to that point as, sort of really being inspired by him, but also inspired by every dad out there and every mom out there, right? And just the universality of the struggles that so many of us have, the connections that we value, the way we want to express care, and seeing a big problem and wanting to be someone who can stand up and take a chance to try to fix problems instead of let them persist. And so it's really, it's not work. It's just love.
I want to talk about, so you're a dad, but one thing I caught that you said last time when we were on our first call was that you said you wake up early every day. And I mean, kudos to you, because I couldn't do it. But what does this morning routine actually look like? Like, what are you chasing in those quiet hours Wow. People are still asleep and before everybody wakes up.
Yeah, well, don't get me wrong. It's not like I'm, fully optimizing and waking up early so I can have hyper productivity. A lot of the times it's a slow morning, and I've got three little kids, and they wake up at different times. But often I'm finding myself waking up early, and I think the thing I really value in that time is just a little bit of quiet, a little bit of calm before the storm, so to speak.
Uh,
Being able to drink coffee and sit there and like watch the sun come up slowly, hear the birds, and think a little bit. And so, there are days when I'll get out and exercise as well. Days where I might be, starting to do a little bit of work more early. But I actually am not in the camp of trying to like ultra optimize my life and make every minute productive. I actually think, one of the keys to sustaining effort over time and to living, in a balanced way with contentment is to not try to over optimize, to keep non-optimized parts of our day that we can just be in and not be in a hurry to do anything. And for me, that's the early mornings.
yeah, I hear you though. Sometimes waking up a little early, and when I say early for me, it's like 8:30 in the morning. However, waking up at 8:30 now is not working. I think I told you last time we spoke. My daughter, I don't know what it is with her, but she's waking up at
Yeah,
7:30 in the morning now, and she wakes up very loud
yeah,
all the time, like coming in, budging in the room and just loud as possible, where her little brother's sleeping,
yeah.
and I'm like, that's it. The whole family has
And
now
everyone's like,
having to.
if it makes you feel better, my dog got me up at 4:15 this morning. So
Oh, that happened to me yesterday, man. I woke up at 5:15, at 6:15. I'm like, what? And at 7, I'm like, my wife says, how do you sleep? I'm like, well, I woke up every single hour. So, life is life in today, and some days better than others. But no, it is great when, as you mentioned, you could have that time in the morning. It truly does make a difference, to sit there and cup of coffee or just sit outside and let the brain wake itself up,
yeah.
because so many times we just get straight into work and we're just trying to solve a problem, but so many times we just need that break for ourselves. It's that reset that allows us to actually show up for others.
That's right, and I
So
think we're bombarded with messages about hustle culture, and I'm a founder, and I take my work pretty seriously, but I also think that there's just this like treadmill of hustle culture and life optimization that we sort of hold up as a standard that actually can be really insidious, and that we've got to be able to have downtime and calm time and not be in a hurry to balance that out and to give ourselves the ability to keep going over the long term and to enjoy our life today, not just be constantly chasing a goal or a finish line. And so, whether that's the morning or another part of your day and whatever you do with that time, I believe it's a really important practice.
if the Hard and Hustle podcast has ever sparked any idea or made you think differently, do us a favor. Make sure to guys share this, post it on LinkedIn, or even text that nonprofit friend that you just have. Whatever works, this is what keeps the conversation going and allows us to just grow this community together. Seriously, we appreciate you. Can we talk a little bit more about what you guys are actually doing at Brightside and that health model? Because it is very different than what other people are doing. Other people just think therapy or meds, but your thought process on this was completely different. Can we just tap into that a little bit so those that are watching may not know
Yeah,
exactly what's going on?
yeah, I'm happy to talk about it. It's some people are really interested in the healthcare system, and some people are really turned off by it because it's so complex and bureaucratic. But I find it fascinating trying to untangle it and to think about how do you actually change it. And so for those who care about that, you can listen. For those who don't, maybe push skip. So we focused on this question of like how do we use telemedicine, not just as a way to give people access to more care, not just to sort of take care as it was being delivered and move it online, but to actually improve the quality of care and to fundamentally change the way mental health care is delivered through this paradigm shift from traditional care to virtual care. And we started this in 2018 before COVID, early mid 2017. And COVID really accelerated this shift, where at that point only a couple of percent of encounters were in this sort of virtual world. Through COVID and to now, about 60% of mental health care encounters are now virtual, meaning over video call. And so it's the norm where more people are getting care and sticking with care, and it works really well. Of course, some people still prefer in person, and that's great if that's what's right for them. But in this paradigm where we have a more sort of longitudinal or ongoing interaction with people, and where we have these virtual visits and technology as a core platform, we can ask ourselves, what does the research show is effective, and how can we make sure that everybody gets that in a way that the traditional care setting has really been challenged by, because it lacks some of that sort of flexibility and that interaction with software. That starts with measurement. So until recently, and even still in major pockets, mental health care has been a space where no one measured outcomes. And so you had all this care getting delivered with no idea whether it was working. You also had sort of infinite variability, where we actually have 50 years of research in mental health showing generally which things are effective and which things might not have evidence of efficacy. But there was no structure, transparency, or accountability for ensuring that care was delivered in line with what the research has shown to be effective, that outcomes were measured, and that we were giving patients and providers the tools to do that well. We also had sort of care that tended to be not very personalized and sort of cookie cutter in many ways. So if you go back to the point around guess and check prescribing, generally the convention a provider would say is try this and come back in 8 weeks and tell me how you're doing. 8 weeks is a long time. In that case, if you're trying a new medication, you might have side effects. It might change the way you're sleeping. It might work or not work. A lot of people will stop taking their meds in that time, and some people will need support sooner. And so thinking about how do you sort of design a care treatment plan and a care paradigm for the right person, how do you give them support between those sessions when they might be talking to a provider that's never been available before, all of those things have to come together into a platform that's easy for the patient, easy for the provider, works within all the regulations of healthcare, can use the bill, can bill and get paid for that care with health insurance companies. That means building a platform and a system that is extremely complicated, data-driven, and focused on outcomes. And that was our North Star. We said, we're not just going to measure our success on access or more appointments happening, but on measurably better outcomes at scale. And that's what we've built towards.
You've been an innovator, man. Innovator. When you talk about telehealth, and I think you said 2017, right? That's what you said?
Yeah.
Like that's. I'm pretty sure you heard a lot of no's during that times too. Like people weren't on that.
No one had ever heard of trying to prescribe mental health medication online, and I think reasonably so. A lot of people were like, "Ooh, is that safe? Can you do that?" And fortunately, my co-founder is a Stanford-trained psychiatrist with at that point over 30 years of practice, and we talked through it at a very detailed level. And she's like, "Yeah, we can do this safely and effectively, and we can be better than the status quo."
I love that. I love that. And now you're covering 150 million lives now. But what was the first hell yes moment from a payer or partner that told you this model could actually work? You remember that first yes?
Yeah, man, I'll never forget it. So, I mean, when we started out, we're a tiny little telemedicine company, nobodies, and so the idea of going and getting a contract with a health insurance company seemed like trying to get to the moon. So we started off cash pay because we knew people were willing to pay cash for services that they're having a hard time getting from their insurance companies. And we got a buyer right away as soon as we put up our website. We had a purchaser in less than 24 hours. And so I was like,
wow.
Okay, there's something here. People are looking for this. What we did, though, is I had to ask myself, okay, how do we make this leap from cash pay to having enough credibility to go get a contract with one of the big health insurance companies? What we realized was that our customers did have health insurance, many of them, but they were still choosing to pay cash because they were frustrated with the resources that were available to them with insurance. And that was one of the big problems we're setting out to solve. And so we treated a bunch of people. By the time I had over 500 people from a single health insurance company that we had treated for at least 3 months, I knew we'd have some good data to show them. And I wanted to be able to go in to that conversation and build credibility beyond just sort of banging on a door and asking for a contract. So what we did is we spent a bunch of time and resource analyzing that data for those 500 people and building like a 40-page report to bring back to that health insurance company to not only tell them but to show them that we were a different kind of provider. And the worry when you're a startup company in healthcare and in a lot of other industries is that when you go to try to engage a bigger player, they'll often ask you to do a pilot, right? To do like a test project. And in our space, there's sort of this pilot purgatory that people can get caught in where you're sort of stuck there for so long, you don't get to grow, and then often, as a startup, you might run out of money. And so my goal was to avoid pilot purgatory. So we took this 40-page report to one of these national payers that everyone would know, and said, here are the results of the pilot you didn't know you were doing with us. And so I wanted to skip over that pilot phase and say, like, the pilot's already done and you guys didn't have to do any work. The data's in and we did great. And we got a national contract from them for that as a small company. They're like, okay, we can tell you guys are a different kind of provider. And I thought that was really validating, that, like, okay, if we do this differently, if we show our work instead of just telling people how we can do it, we're going to build trust and credibility and be able to solve problems together with these partners.
So you pretty much were knocking on doors and no was even an option. It's like,
right.
Here it is. Yeah. Listen,
this,
all the legwork is done. Just sign the check.
That's right. And so we got that first contract. We went and did it with 2 other large national payers. We started in commercial insurance, and then we moved into Medicare and now Medicaid and exchange, and we've got about 150 million covered lives today. So what that means is that you can use your insurance with Brightside the same way you would any other care, and you can use your copay and get the highest quality mental health care at a very affordable rate.
I love this, man. Your leadership is truly, you lead with some tenderness in that data and in that heart. Where did you learn that balance? Or, like, is it something that just already was instilled in you through the journey? Like, there's data for sure, and then there's just this heart, the love, this passion that you have for this.
I think it's a great question, and thanks for asking that. I think it comes from a few places. If I'm reflective about it, some of it's got to come from my mom and dad, from my family, and just some of the values that I hold dear there. But the truth is, I got to give a lot of credit to my wife. I came up, like a lot of us, in this male culture and this work culture that was like, be tough, don't show emotion at work, push through. A leader is strong and unwavering and unflappable, and certainly some of those ideas are sort of deeply ingrained in me, and I don't inherently reject them. I think leadership does require some elements of that, but what I've learned is that it also requires authenticity, right? If people want to be part of a team and part of a vision, they want it to be real, and they know that if they can't see any challenges or emotionality or setbacks, that's just being hidden. It's not that it's not there, it's that it's being minimized, and that someone's sort of being less than authentic. And so my wife, early on when we were together, pushed me to start thinking about that and to start living that. And it's been a long process of trying to open up to that iteratively, and I still try intentionally to do it all the time. And it's hard. It's hard to undo all that armor that I put on when I was a kid, trying to act tough and infallible and be optimistic and overcome obstacles. And so I'm trying to find the balance, but what I think it's been able to do, and being sort of real and authentic that way and truly meaning it when I talk about our mission and not just having that be lip service, is it's allowed me to attract just a phenomenal team of people who truly also believe in our mission, and has allowed us to really execute well in that way. And so, I'm still on that journey, and but I think it works well for me, and it works well for our company.
No, kudos to your wife for sure for seeing, from the outside perspective, because as men, we don't see it, right? We're like, what are you talking about? But then when that person so closest to you is calling it out, of course you're going to put some thought into it, and not just thought, but you're going to put a little execution into it as well.
Yeah.
And you doing it, seeing the outcome, right? What is that return when I am being a little bit more vulnerable, when I am being a little bit more open about things? And as you mentioned, people do business with people.
That's right.
So when you show up as yourself, authentic self, people love that, and people can see that, and people can see when you're being fake.
Yeah.
And that's why, Brad, having this first conversation with you, like, there was nothing fake about it, and even just now, you're just so humble, like truly building here an empire, and you're just still so humble about it. Like, I'm just doing the work, man, just doing the work. So I love this, and you play so many roles. You mentioned the husband, you are a parent, you are a founder, you're building systems, you're building more than a company. What kind of world do you hope your kids inherit because of the work you're actually doing now? I had all the good questions. You're today here, Brad.
You're really asking for my deepest thoughts here. Well,
We're trying to see if your wife
Yeah.
is putting you to the test here, right? We're trying to see if it is actually
Yeah,
working.
I'm trying to build a whole set of systems and community around me who can help me think in deep and meaningful ways about a lot of these questions. Right now, in this phase of my life and my work, I'm really focused on making sure treatment is better and more effective for mental health needs. I think as I zoom out and ponder this question you're talking about, my hope and maybe my need in my next step is to try to get upstream of that, right? Like trying to reduce the incidence of people struggling with mental health and addiction problems. And that's what I would want for my kids, right? To be living in a world where they feel secure and connected and resilient. And, I think COVID was a real setback for young people trying to sort of build some of those systems and navigate that. Some of the data, for example, on like teen suicide rates has come down a little bit, but we're still in the midst of an alarming long-term trend there. And so, my hopes for my kids are that they are resilient and that they have the tools they need to navigate the inherent ups and downs in life. I think my framing and my learning here has been that I don't think happiness is the right framing or right goal for them, because life's going to have a bunch of hard stuff that they need to manage, and I want them to have contentment. I want them to be able to ride the ups and downs and navigate through it and solve problems and lean on people around them and be okay through that and get care and support when they need it. And so I'm hoping and trying my best to prepare them for that, and I'm going to keep looking around the world and seeing if there are other ways that I can help build systems and services that they and other people like them might benefit from.
I'm pretty sure as your kids get older, you'll start to experience the gratitude of the work you put, laid for them. Because I'm a big believer that kids may not listen to us, but they see the work that we're doing. And for your kids to kind of see that fight that you've always had, and it's not for you, it's not about you, right? It's not about us. It's about them, and it's about your past, also changing the past, but also looking into the future and making sure that, as you mentioned, they don't have to experience some of these things. You mentioned a couple of different things, like I allow my kids to adventure. I allow my kid to, do things that maybe other parents don't do. So I believe that, your kids are a little still on the young side, but as they're in high school and they're seeing dad, or maybe they're off in their own lives, they're looking dad like, man, dad really changed the industry. So that's what you're doing, man. Changing an industry that has, for a very long time, has not been innovative. And you did that. You did that with a team. So kudos, man. I can't wait to
Appreciate
see
it.
what the
I'll
kids
tell you
think
that
yeah.
healthcare is not an easy industry to try to innovate in or to build
It's
anything in.
not.
So we chose a hard path, and it's hard at every step. But that's the reason that it needs to change and needs to get updated. And I want to tell you that there are tons and tons of great people working in healthcare with lots and lots of good intentions, with lots of safety mechanisms. And so there's a great set of ingredients and inputs, and a lot of people looking for really effective innovation. It's about bringing those things together, solving for that complexity, and bringing a scientific mindset to make it happen. So I'm excited about what's ahead.
No, I'm excited as well, man. And one of the biggest things you've been doing is showing up, right? Every day, hard days, easy days, you just still got to show up. The days that you sometimes may not believe in yourself, you still got to show up. What does that actually mean to you now, though? That you showed up, and this is what comes from showing up when things didn't even look like this.
There's a lot of satisfaction in having a vision for something and then building it and manifesting it, being able to see it. So just rewinding to the idea that I had in 2017 and the audacious goal of trying to build a national mental health provider that delivers better care, and then to now where we've built something really amazing and really exciting that has delivered great psychiatry, great therapy, great suicide prevention programs, now intensive outpatient programs to hundreds of thousands of people. We've published 13 papers in peer review showing our outcomes. We've got 150 million lives under contract that we support. There's a lot of satisfaction in that. It feels good. Yeah. I think what I'm working on in my own journey is that, the younger me sort of, I think wanted that satisfaction for sort of for pride, right? For like building my resume or showing, look, I can do that. I think as I'm growing into this and at this part of the journey, it's just about feeling good as part of an expression of who I am and who I want to be, and a little bit less about external validation. So I think to your point, like, yeah, it feels good. It feels in some way, my wife is more of an artist. She talks about sort of creative expression. I think this is my version of creative expression, the way that I want to create and add value, and that just feels good on an intrinsic level for me.
Yeah, I had to learn that creativity looks very different in various ways, right? You think creative, you think artist automatically, and you think artist, you think about the painter.
Yeah.
But no, we're all artists in our own world, right? You're artists, you have pieced this nice thing together, and people are just excited to be a part of it, to use it. As you mentioned, great leadership around you because of who you are. So I truly appreciate that. We're gonna get into this blind question here in just a bit, man. But Brad, tell them where they can find this information. I don't know if you guys are on social media, but if they wanted to connect with you, where can they find you? Where can they find?
Yep.
What is a website?
Yeah, you can find Brightside Health at brightside.com, and you can find me on LinkedIn if you want to reach out directly.
I love it. I love it. I love it. This is a great conversation, man, and so excited to see what actually happens because you were already ahead of the curve, and you're now still ahead of the curve with the whole AI implementation. So what happens in the next 5 years, Brad? You're about to really knock this out of the park, man. You got to be ready. Are you ready?
I'm ready.
All right.
Yeah, we're gonna.
Well, hopefully you're ready for this blind question as well, because the blind question that the last leader had, Mr. Paul, if I'm not mistaken, was the last leader that we had, and he says, "What was the moment in your life you're most grateful for, and why?"
That I'm most grateful for.
And he says, and ask them why. So I got to make sure the why is in there,
Yeah. I will say. Oh man, there's so many. I'm really like filled with gratitude for so many things in my life, and I could just go down a long list and maybe trying to skip the obvious ones. But to me, the moment I met my wife has to be the biggest moment in my life, because if you look at research, the biggest impact on your level of contentment and how you do in your life, the biggest decision you ever make is the partner you choose. And there's a lot of luck, and there's a lot of effort and a lot of heartbreak that often goes into this for so many of us. And I feel like I was unbelievably fortunate to meet my wife and my partner, and that it's just had a huge impact on my life every day and for the rest of my life. And so there's nothing I can imagine more impactful. Obviously, couldn't have more love for my parents, and just being born was a pretty impactful moment in my life. But I think that's the one that has had the biggest impact on the way I see and experience the world.
Yeah, no, that was a good one. That was a good one. I mean, I'm pretty sure she's happy to hear that, but you are 100% correct. Our partners know us more than our actual parents do, right? They're going to see us cry more than our parents ever probably seen us cry. They're going to see us fail more than our actual parents ever seen us fail. Because I don't know about you, but, if I fail, my mom probably doesn't know 9 times out of 10 that I failed. But my wife knows. She sees it. Even though I don't tell her, she sees it in my face, Something's not right here. So, no, man, shout out to all the great women out there, especially yours, Brad, that has really been by your side and been with you on this journey, man, to see you build something so successful. I appreciate it. What is your blind question to the next leader?
Oh, man. You didn't prep me for that, having to ask that question, did you? I would say, I think it's really valuable for every leader to always be mindful of what's their next biggest growth opportunity. What's their biggest gap right now where they need to grow? And I would say
that's good. Where's the biggest gap and where they need to grow? Is it
not professional, right? So the first thing that might come to mind is a professional thing, but I would say what's the personal thing below that?
Okay. All right. So this is where's a gap in their lives, right? That's a question. And what was the other piece of it?
It's just the next big growth opportunity, the place where they feel that they need to grow. And again, when we're talking about a professional context, someone might be like, oh, well, my financial forecasting needs to get a little bit better. But I think there's something below that, right? If you're if you're not doing as well as you'd like at financial forecasting, let's say, like maybe it's actually something more like my attention to detail, or the way that I, am able to allocate my time to different things, or there's always something a little bit lower. And so I think the real question that matters is digging down into that sort of personal level of growth that shows up in professional ways.
Okay. I like that. I like that. It's another great thinking question, especially when you said more on the personal side, because it does separate everything that we can potentially say about either our healthcare organization or our nonprofit. That's easy. You want to get more into depth. I love it, man. Well, Brad, I really thank you for such a great conversation. I'm so happy that so many people experience the pandemic. Well, we all experienced the pandemic, but some experienced some bad times during the pandemic. And for you, there was a lot of success. And I wish you so much more success. And I'm so happy that you're in a space where people are having conversations that we were not having years ago. And especially for our youth, you mentioned the youth. Like, I think there's the sweet spot there as well, that as you mentioned, back in our days, when I say our days, I don't even know if we're the same age, but as growing up, we didn't talk about mental health. We weren't talking about the problems that were happening at home, but there were so many problems happening at home. And I didn't realize that until I actually graduated and realized, man, we all have a story. We all are having to overcome something. So for you to be in the space, mental health for our young adults, I believe that you're already ahead of the game. Again, you're helping the next generation of leaders see themselves, allow them to feel heard as well, and to share their feelings, but also find great help that allows them to live the life that we both are most grateful for, right? Every day we as leaders get to show up and pour into others. And I think it's pretty cool that we get to do that. So thank you again for the conversation. Guys, if you guys want to just make a difference, it's truly just sharing the information. Like, this information is for everyone, and if you feel like it touched you, or if you feel like you have someone that's kind of experiencing some of these issues that we talked about here today, make sure that you guys go ahead and check out Brad and the website and really figure out how we can get assistance, because you don't have to deal with it alone. So if you're still here, make sure you guys do share, like, and comment. That's the only way we get to have these conversations in the eyes of the right people. With that being said, my name's Efrain. This is Brad. We'll catch you on the next one. Laters.